Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapebetrayals.tv. Good evening. Happy Wednesday. Simon, pay attention.
I am paying attention.
We've got Iridian here as well. Iridian, say something so the camera switches to you.
I'm here.
Oh, hello. Right,
Hello.
so it's an all-Welsh all-star tonight, apart from me, because I'm not Welsh.
Close enough,
really
you live in Bridgend.
Yeah, well, does that qualify me? No, I wouldn't say so.
Well, you got a Bridgend accent. Not.
Actually, before we get any serious stuff out of the way, I was down to my local vapor emporium on Saturday, and I was chatting to the manager of said vaping emporium, or Rob, as B knows him, and I actually had him believing I was from Pencoed.
I'm saying nothing.
There we go. Anyway, what we're doing tonight down on this very Welsh-themed, Welsh-type show, and it's nothing to do with rugby either, thankfully.
No rugby. That's the weekend.
Rid, you're up.
Oh, what's happening tonight? We're going to be talking a little bit about politics, and we all love vaping Welsh politics. So we're going to have a little bit of a look back at what happened last week at the Health and Social Care Committee evidence session from the BMA Wales. Ooh.
So with that said, shall we play that in then, shall we, before we get cracking on it?
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes, folks, so get your kettles on. So we'll see you on the other side of this.
Move on to, obviously, then, the early part of the bill, which refers to tobacco, smoking and e-cigarettes. I'll start off then. Clearly, we've seen conflicting evidence as to the harm, or lot less harm from e-cigarettes compared to tobacco. And we've recently seen the Public Health England paper produced. Can I have basically your view is, does the bill actually help or hinder smoking cessation programs as it stands? Because obviously one of the arguments being used very heavily is that e-cigarettes can help cessation of tobacco products. Does the bill hinder that?
I'm not sure the bill proposed that particularly, but my understanding is the bill is proposing just some narrow measures to bring the regulation of e-cigarettes in line with that of tobacco, particularly in relation to public places and workplaces, and we support that. That's only a minority of time, I guess, or particularly the public places perhaps that people spend, so it doesn't interfere with what they do at home in terms of your question about smoking cessation. This is a rapidly moving area at the moment, quite controversial. Evidence is accumulating all the time, although it's still pretty early days. We've confined ourselves to the question, the actual proposal about regulating e-cigarettes use in public and workplaces, and we support the proposal on balance, and we do so because we're worried about undermining the ban in public places by making it more difficult to enforce, on the one hand, the ban of tobacco, which has been so successful, and we're worried also about renormalising the habit of smoking, And we're worried also about, we're slightly concerned about what's in these e-cigarettes. We realise nicotine's in them in varying concentrations, but there's other things in them which varies considerably between brands. And we're worried about taking a precautionary approach till we know more about that in terms of being exposed to those, in a sense, pollutants indoors, so exposing other people to those. We've got, we've not put it in the evidence, but we've, or at least this is me personally, I've recently become aware that I've had advice that in a different realm that these devices are actually perfect for utilising to fill with other chemicals such as legal highs and smoking them. So we're a bit worried about that, about them being opened up and filled with something else. They're actually perfect, apparently, an expert tells me, for utilising to take legal highs. So that's a little bit of a concern, and nothing to do with this but I mean, it's uncontroversial, I think, and I think across the board, that they do need to be regulated in terms of their content, whether that's as medicines or whatever, so that they're standardised, so whatever they say they're giving you, you get. But also they maybe need to regulate the actual the construction of them, so you can't take them apart and put something else in as well.
Because this bill obviously doesn't put the regulations in place. But
no. So this is about public places and workplaces, and we support the provision.
I find the whole thing about e-cigarettes quite concerning, talking to young people and you ask them about their smoking habits and they say, I don't smoke. And if you specifically ask them about e-cigarettes, they say, oh, well, when I go out, I do have those. We share them around. Sharing such things actually increases the risk of getting diseases, infectious diseases being spread, particularly things like hepatitis. So we want to discourage that. And nicotine per se is an addictive product. There is nicotine in these, though people quite often don't realise there's any nicotine in them when you talk to them. And nicotine has got health effects that are not good, like increasing your blood pressure, causing vasoconstriction, and various other things. So we haven't got enough evidence, because most of the evidence has been on cigarettes. We need pure evidence about the health effects of nicotine and these e-cigarettes. Okay, the doses may be low, but they are still addictive, and people want to have more and more of them very often. And if they are used, they should be used as a means to reduce smoking and give up smoking, not as a substitute for smoking.
Can I ask a question? You've mentioned already the possible medical use of them and regulation as a consequence. If the Medicines Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency actually does decide to approve some, does the bill cope with that situation in its present form?
I think that if they become a medicine per se that is potentially prescribable, then we will need some stronger legislation, which presumably would come in with through the Medicines Act about prescribing them and the restrictions on the prescriptions, and that would cover the issue about because potentially you might want to prescribe them for somebody who is under 18. There would need to be some specific mechanism whereby you could let an under 18 have them if they were on prescription, and there are other legislations that cover other things like controlled drugs that say if you've got a prescription you can hold these controlled drugs. So I don't think that there would be any problem bringing that sort of legislation, and it could take it could precede this, or supersede, I think is the word, the legislation of the Public Health Act in Wales.
Okay, thanks for that. Do you also think the extension of the places in which a smoking ban exists is part of the bill, and it's helpful because we are talking about some open spaces rather than enclosed spaces now, particularly children's playground areas, for example?
Obviously the exposure to the pollutants is lower in an open space, but we support, it's partly because of the normalising effect, but we support the extension to children's playgrounds.
John?
On that, I wonder if you might have any suggestions of other areas that might be included in that extension of public space within which smoking tobacco isn't permitted. We've heard ideas in terms of tourist beaches, for example. I think some people feel strongly that outdoor areas of restaurants and cafes might be included. Shopping centres. There are a number of suggestions. I wonder if you've given any thought as to further extensions that might be included in this legislation.
I don't think we've given specific thought in great detail, but I think the test you'd have to look at is it a sort of enclosed space whereby people are going to be in close proximity with other people and therefore liable to be subject to the second-hand effects of smoking. I think what we have said is that the proposal that's in the bill that says that I think ministers have to be satisfied that it will enhance the public health of the people of Wales. I think that is a good test, and therefore I think the approach we would take is, as long as you apply an assessment, and that assessment is sufficiently robust to tell, then I think that would satisfy us. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you look at, say, tourist beaches, I mean, I've been on Porthcawl Beach when it's been a very sunny day and it's been very crowded, and I find myself in close proximity with other people. I'm sure if you were walking along Porthcawl Beach in a cold November afternoon, it wouldn't necessarily be the same scenario if somebody was smoking. So I think it has to be thought through carefully. I don't think it's necessarily an easy thing to define.
No, I guess it could be times of the year, you know, as you have restrictions on walking dogs on beaches during the peak months, for example. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Ellen?
Yes, I just wanted to ask whether you believe that e-cigarettes are going to play a significant role in reducing the consumption and use of tobacco for individuals and eliminating it for some. There's obviously a public health benefit to that if that happens. And do you consider that there's any real danger then in promoting the concept that e-cigarettes should be placed in the same category as tobacco cigarettes in the public's viewpoint?
I mentioned that this is a rapidly developing area. It is possible that that e-cigarettes have, you know, and there are a number of conflicting reports out at the moment, and I think it's fair to say there's a fairly large split because it's too early in terms of evidence within public health and within medicine about it. So it is possible they've got something to offer, but but there are some worries about it. I've mentioned renormalising. I don't think it's that controversial, actually, about the public places, because these are still pollutants, indoor public spaces. And, you know, nicotine, we don't know what the carcinogen is in tobacco. We think there are probably several. But we know there are lots of mutagens, so you can cause mutations in a test tube, if you like, using various chemicals. And I think nicotine is one of those, for instance. There's no doubt that it's a lesser evil than tobacco. I think we are very worried about renormalising smoking in social and spaces and supporting, you know, and aiding that, and we're worried about undermining the ban on public places and workplaces, because it's very hard to tell if sometimes from a distance whether somebody's vaping or smoking, because some of the devices even light up at the end. So those are worries. There was something else I was going to say. I'll probably come back to me.
Have you given any consideration to the fact that it may be more appropriate for e-cigarettes to be banned in a restricted number of public places? And I'm thinking of social places, I think you called them, and they could be could be specifically named in legislation as public transport, places that serve food and drink, that it's a less restricted, it's it's not as restricted as tobacco, in order to make that differentiation, and in order possibly for people to be to feel that that they have more freedom in using e-cigarettes, and that it's an incentive to use e-cigarettes over tobacco cigarettes.
Well, as I say, at the moment, I mean, our policy line is we support them it being congruent with cigarettes for a number of reasons. So there being no incongruity, but it's an early, you know, it's early on. They've taken off, undoubtedly. We're slightly concerned in general that a lot of the companies have been taken over and now owned by the tobacco industry itself, and we're worried about them being used as a gateway product in certain groups, and we're worried that some of the products are coloured and perfumed, and we worry that they're targeted, in spite of denials, at or attractive to young people. So we're nervous, but they may have a part to play. We don't want the existing provisions for tobacco to be undermined, though. That's our major point, and we don't want to renormalise the activity of smoking.
Can I ask the RCGP as well?
I think I would support that. I really don't think that they should be allowed in any public spaces, really. And there's also the evidence that children are now kind of picking them up and using them as they used to. When I was a child, you used to go around with your little sweetie cigarette, didn't you? And children are doing the same sort of things with the vapes. So I think probably restricting them is good, however you can.
Okay. I got 3 final questions from Kirsty Altaf and Alan, and then our time is up. So, Kirsty?
Thank you. Dr. Mohammed, you said several times this morning that your concern is about renormalisation of smoking. The report published just last month by Public Health England, key messages, paragraph 3, there is no evidence that electronic cigarettes are undermining the long-term decline in cigarette smoking amongst adults and youth, and in fact may be contributing to it. Despite some experimentation with e-cigarettes amongst never smokers, e-cigarettes are attracting very few people who have never smoked into regular e-cigarette use. And there is no evidence in England that e-cigarettes are renormalising smoking at all. I'm just wondering whether, given several times that you've expressed concerns about renormalisation, whether you have any specific Welsh evidence that would contradict your colleagues in Public Health England and in their report last month, which is quite clear actually that there is no evidence of renormalisation or undermining. But maybe in Wales, maybe there's a different set of data or circumstances.
Well, in Wales, the policy line of Public Health Wales is contrary to that. It's not supporting e-cigarettes. So what I'm telling you, though, I mentioned... There's a difference between a policy line and evidence, isn't there? Oh, yeah, and I've mentioned, that's what I was going to say. It's quite early days in the evidence base in general. And so what I'm telling you is, you know, this has been considered by the BMA ARM annual representative meeting, and you know, what we've told you is what is our view is what the BMA policy is.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will highlight there's a report from the University of Southern California of last month, which also actually puts an opposite view to that as well.
Generally, some quite heavy criticism of the report that Kirsty's referred to. I can't quite remember what the criticism was, but it'd be quite useful. It would be, well... You made a big impression on you. I was speed reading, Kirsty, but it would be useful for us, I think, as Kirsty's mentioned in the report, to also consider what criticism has emerged since its publication.
Just to clarify the point, there is an article in the Lancet which challenges the report. There's also another article recently published by others who have challenged the report. So it is a question of conflicting evidence at this point in time, which has already been highlighted by our witnesses today. So 2 final questions, Altaf and then Hussain, and then Alan.
We talk about the cigarette smoking and e-cigarettes. How about shisha and hookah? You know, it's so prevalent now in, in social places, really. Should that be included?
Crikey. Help, what's the ARM said on that? Hashish.
Shisha and hookah.
It has got nicotine in some of them.
Absolutely.
And people don't realise, again, you know, talking to patients, they don't realise, and that's my issue about some of these reports, are people declaring what they are actually inhaling? And so I think that the hookahs should be restricted. And I think, are they not mostly now used outside? I don't know, I have not much experience of their use or seen their use,
No, I don't
should say.
know myself, but you're right. They can put anything in them and
Yes.
they can have it. That's why they are very popular.
Yes. And people, again, use them socially, who maybe, young people are using these things socially as the e-cigarettes are, and they are not necessarily knowing what is inside. It could be anything, and they're not declaring. So we need more evidence about how many people are using these different things, because they think it's not smoking, so they don't say they are using them.
So, Chair, the point is that whether we should include hookah and shisha in this.
Well, I go to the point, the nicotine products.
Yeah.
The final question, Marlon.
The language you've used, Dr. Monaghan, in answering questions on e-cigarettes has been very inconclusive. You're worried, you have concerns. It's very difficult for us to make law on the basis of worries and concerns. We need evidence. And although I don't disagree with your fundamental point, and I actually intuitively think you're probably right, that e-cigarettes renormalises a place of tobacco in society in a way that we would not wish to see. And intuitively, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that at all. But it is a matter of some concern that the BMA is coming here and asking us to legislate without significant hard evidence upon which to base those points.
Before you answer, I'd like to clarify that the BMA are returning to the committee on the 1st of October when we look specifically at this topic.
Yeah, I understand that, but we were having this conversation this morning, so.
I'm not sure we're specifically coming here and asking you to legislate. I think the Welsh Government is intending to legislate, and we've been asked to give our view on what's proposed.
But you support it?
Yeah, we've said we support it. Yes, we do. Yeah.
So why?
It's just a slight... Well, I think Dr. Monaghan...
I think that Dr. Monaghan's given us the answer why he's expressed his concern of the lack of evidence either way and his precautionary position at this point in time on regard to renormalisation. I think that's very fair. So I'll come to an end of this morning, and can I thank the witnesses for their evidence. You will receive a copy of the transcript for any factual inaccuracies. Please let us know as soon as possible if there are any. So once again, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Vapers, do you love discovering new e-liquids? Tell Dripper the types of flavours you like and they'll send you 5 gourmet juices each month. Experience new and exclusive flavours, all with a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe. Dripper.co.uk.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
stop the whales that want to get off. Yeah, so that was fun.
Yes.
Chat, you were having an absolute whale of a time there, I see. So you enjoyed that, did you? Yeah, yeah. You see what we've got to put up with here. Okay, boys, over to you.
Yeah, I don't think we need to reiterate how much pants came out of the BMA's mouth and the Royal College of GPs. But there was one question that went through chat asking if there was anybody that doesn't support the Welsh Government proposals, but at HSCC level, there's a bit of a problem. Si, could you care to explain what the problem is with regards to the people on the committee?
Yeah. Well, we can going through the people who are members of the HSCC. I'll just read out who they are and what party they represent, and I think most people will work out what the problem is. So you have David Rees, AM, the chairman, Labour. Alan Davis, AM, Labour. John Griffiths, AM, Labour. Altaf Hussain, AM, Conservative. Ellen Jones, AM, Plaid Cymru. Dallin Mirror, AM, Conservative. Lynn Neagle, AM, Labour. Gwynnar Price, AM, Labour. Lindsay Whittle, AM, Plaid Cymru. And Kirsty Williams, AM, Lib Dem. Does anybody see a problem with that?
Yeah, if you can work out the problem there, you've got more brains than the BMA Wales, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, so the committee is very weighted against the vaping community and common sense. Brian Coe asked, what about e-cigs? e-cigs went before them today. So if Keith, could you chuck in the link to the Senedd TV for e-cigs this morning? They also got a grilling, particularly from Alan Davis. I've made my opinions known through other avenues of social media, but I'm not going to repeat myself.
Go on, repeat yourself.
Yeah, he's tosspot, but he's also a tosspot to everyone else because he just likes assuming nothing is convincing. It's opinion, not evidence. But speaking of evidence, Kirsty made the fantastic point there. Policy isn't evidence. Policy is based on the information they have around them. So, PH Wales, what do they know that we don't and Public Health England don't?
Well, I'll tell you what they do know, and what they do know is that passing e-cigs around can give you cooties.
Yeah, there is that, yeah.
Yeah. Frankly, I've heard more convincing arguments in primary school, but there we go. Sorry, back over to you guys.
Well, I think the main thing that came out of that one from last week was the fact that the BMA basically don't have any evidence because, as we know, Alan Davis took him to task and he said, all you're telling us is opinion. You know, you're not giving us any evidence, and how can we legislate when you're not giving us evidence? That was a fair comment. Kirsty also tried to, to pull him back on that and started, talking about the Public Health England report. Disappointingly, I think Kirsty had not kept up to date with the latest news that's been going on with the Public England, where, Capewell and McKee criticised it, but there's been a hell of a lot of criticism back. And as we all know now, when a number of esteemed bodies signed up to support the PHE, one of those was the Faculty of Public Health, of which Capewell is supposedly the Vice President.
Right, okay, so that lot of rubbish was spouted last week from the people giving evidence. Not so much rubbish spouted this week from Catherine Devlin and Tom Pruen from e-cigs. But to my surprise, they were what's the term? They were grilled more about the science rather than the industry body's opinions of the proposals. And as I tweeted earlier, if those members, excluding David Rees, because he actually went to the event I'm going to mention, and that was Linda Bowles' breakfast briefing on e-cigs a couple of months ago. So, in my opinion, they wasted a lot of time discussing what I would term the basics of the science, rather than the policy issues.
Can I cut in there, Ridian? Because in fairness, the sessions, the HSCC sessions, are all about informing the entire, the entire member list of the HSCC. And yes, David Rees was there, when Linda Ball did her presentation, as was John Griffiths, another person who was also a member of the HSCC. However, other members there were not. So I think a lot of those questions were more to bring other members up to speed with with the science behind it, which they may not have been aware of. I mean, I take your point. I mean, Altaf Hussein, for example, who we actually know is supportive of e-cigs, in both last week and this week, seems more concerned, with what's happening with shisha and hookah, which was a bit of a misnomer because as far as I'm aware, they are not caught up in this legislation.
Not from what I read in the proposals, no, because it's all about, unless they're caught up in the tobacco products definition rather than nicotine inhaling devices definition.
Which is another thing in itself as well. I mean, we've discussed before. Last week, they kept banging on time and time again about nicotine containing devices. So, if the legislation is based on nicotine containing devices, that also includes Nicorette spray and, those Nicorette little tampon type things like that includes those. But by definition, in a court of law, it cannot include an e-cigarette that does not contain nicotine, because they keep saying nicotine containing devices. We all know that a lot of e-cigarette users out there using e-cigarettes without nicotine. Therefore, by the same score as you cannot include e-cigs in the smoking laws because it doesn't produce smoke, if they bring this legislation forward as it is, they also cannot include an e-cigarette which does not contain nicotine, because by law that is not a nicotine containing device. So then, how the hell are they going to tell the difference between one that's got nicotine and one that hasn't?
Well, unless the coppers are going to walk around with a whole bunch of nicotine tester kits with them or something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. They can't do it, can they? It's like this whole notion of what is it? Drakeford proudly tweeted today that in in 10 days' time or something that it's going to be illegal to smoke in your car with anyone under 18 in it. And I saw that and I thought, you smug git. But that's another unenforceable law, isn't it? Because we know speed cameras aren't going to pick that up. Sorry.
Somebody's brought that up in our meeting on Monday. They turned around and they said, well, the smoking in cars, how do you tell the difference between somebody who's using an e-cigarette and somebody who's smoking in a car?
Yeah. In my opinion, those who were on the Constitutional and Legislative Affairs Committee were ever so slightly more clued up on terminology. They actually used the word vaping in that meeting. So how on earth Alan Davis didn't know that vape was in the OED for 2015, I'd never know. Darren Miller this week was really good, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I mean, Darren, as we all know, he's clued up. He reads up a lot on this stuff, and he's quite clever with how he goes about it. I got the impression today he was also almost trying to lead Catherine and Tom into giving the answers that that he felt they should be given.
Yeah. Because what they had to look at with his avenue of thought with, well, you can still have Generation 1 as long as they don't look like a cigarette. Is that something you would support? And in a roundabout way, e-cigs said yes, but then put in specific characteristics of a Generation 1. It's not just the ones in the lower income areas, it's also the older generation as well that you've got to think about. But that's just my personal opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think of it, there's a lot of people out there who currently smoke who like the form factor of a cigarette. So if they're going to go to an e-cigarette, they actually want that form factor in an e-cigarette. So that's where the cigarettes have a value in getting people. And I think Catherine alluded to this quite well. You know, it's a way of getting those people to get over to the e-cigarettes first, and then from there, then moving them on to a second or a third generation device, which would be far more satisfying for them.
Let's be honest, that's how most of us started, at least most of us started a year or two ago. When I first started, I couldn't get my head around the concept of using something that wasn't like a cigarette. It eventually came to me, but also I'd like to point out as well that apparently all e-cigs light up the end. That's how you can tell them. So I've got a glowing end on my e-cig.
I don't.
I do, because mine looks like exactly like a Benson Hedges, and it says 30 watts.
But you can customize yours, like, you know, so when it lights up in the end, you know, to any answer, it actually says bog off.
I mean, this looks particularly like a cigarette. I mean, it looks like something Marco would particularly enjoy, but yeah. Anyway,
that's another story.
That looks more like a Meccano set.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. A Meccano mod. So we're deviating, aren't we? We're supposed to be serious.
Yeah. Right. Seriousness. We've got to bear in mind that this is just the start of the beginning of the evidence gathering sessions. They'll go on for a fair bit of time, so there is still time for the members of the HSCC to change their minds, and next week is looking very positive from the agenda that's been released today for it and the people giving evidence.
Hang on, did you just say that this is the beginning of the evidence gathering sessions?
Well, no, that actually started before the summer recess.
Did someone actually tell the BMA to start gathering evidence? Because they bloody well haven't.
It depends on if they received the notification of the notification and the memo. So there's still a long way to go, and next week is looking quite positive, isn't it, Simon?
Well, yeah. The actual agenda for next week's meeting got released this afternoon. And I picked it up because I'm on the mailing list for the Welsh Government, so I get all the notifications of the agendas for committees like the HSCC. So I'll tell you who's going to be giving evidence next week, which may give chat something to think about. First up next week, with their own 45-minute slot, are Ash Wales. Now, we know Ash Wales oppose the e-cig ban. The next session, after that, another 45-minute session, is being shared between Cancer Research UK, and I happen to know that the person representing Cancer Research UK is Professor Linda Bold, and the other person who's going to be there is Professor John Britton. So there's your second session. Third session, the third 45-minute session, came as a complete surprise to me because Public Health England have been asked to the Welsh Assembly to go through their recent paper, their recent research that we've all been raving about. So I know, you know, that chat were going on a lot, you know, during the video we had earlier on about, you know, don't they talk to Public Health England? They will be next week. Public Health England are one of the people who have been invited. The fourth session, I think, is going to be a humdinger, because the fourth session is being shared with between the BMA who for some inexplicable reason have been asked back a second time to give evidence. And the other people with them in the same session are going to be the Royal College of Physicians. Now, the RCP vehemently disagree with the BMA about e-cigs, so that's going to be an interesting session. Finally, the last people who are going to be giving evidence next week are the Faculty of Public Health, and that is Simon Capewell's people. I don't know who from the Faculty of Public Health is going to be giving evidence there. I assume it's not going to be Capewell, but that could also be a very interesting session, and next week looks like being a very long and eventful day.
Yes. I think I'll have to set my laptop to record that. So things may be looking up in terms for us. Looking at next week anyway. It's just we've got to keep an eye on who's being called in. But one thing that hasn't been publicly addressed is that no consumers like myself, like you guys, everyone in chat, haven't been even thought about yet. But Tom did point out that they need to get a consumer representative in.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I'm not likely to be asked personally because of the fact that in the end of the day, I didn't put any evidence in myself. However, they certainly haven't asked, an organisation like the NNA, of which I'm a member, and we are representing the consumers. So, at the very least, they should be asking the NNA to come in there and giving a little bit of evidence up there. I'm also rather surprised that they haven't as yet, to the best of my knowledge, asked Clive to go there. And the reason I'm surprised is because most of these AMs know him. That may be the reason why they haven't asked him, I don't know. But I would have thought that Clive would be asked to go there. And I think Clive, again, would give a lot of those AMs on that on the HSCC panel a damn good run for their money, because that man can talk.
Well, what we try and do, we try and get the footage of these events as and when. I mean, it's a bit tricky to get the time to actually get them recorded and put up in time. So we'll see what we can do. Look, we need to take the adverts, I think, because it's 22. We'll come back and we're going to lighten the mood a little bit with some events and things that have been going on this week. And we'll probably come back to this towards the end of the show. Okay?
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapebetrayals.tv. Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapebetrayals.tv.
LP Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
And we're back. Right, so we're going to dive straight into some VT. We've got a couple of bits of VT. So here's one. Here's a review. Enjoy it.
Good morning, and it's a Saturday morning. Nice fresh early Saturday morning. Bit of fog around here. I intend to add to that fog. So what have we got this morning then? Well, we got 3 juices indeed, and this has been a long time coming. So we've got Orangella. We've got part of their Genie range, the Turkish Delight, and one that's currently unreleased. I've only got 5 mil of this, so this has got to count. So then, I think we'll start with the Orangella. So let's start with the Orangella then. Now I've got this on a DNA 200 device on a Derringer, and it's currently set in temperature control mode at 0.07 ohms, 70 watts and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is the Orangella. Yeah, it's very, very orangey. It's actually quite refreshing. Vapor production is quite good, but you would expect that on a misty morning. So, you know. But it is, I believe, a 70% PG. Oh no, 50-50. My mistake. 6 milligram, or 0.6%. And it, flavour, vapor and throw hit wise, it behaves as I expect. But the flavour is tangy. It's leaving a tang on my tongue, which is quite pleasant. It's definitely oranges though, no question about that. Definitely oranges. Yeah, it's a very sharp orange. I quite like this. That's one to add to the throwing around. No, one to add to the vape me later pile, I think. So next up, then we got the Turkish Delight, part of the Genie range, and this I believe is only available in 10ml bottles, which is a bit of a shame. But you know, there we are. There's a 50-50 blend. Comes in a nice, attractive Turkish light coloured bottle. Let's give it a go. It is Turkish Delight. It's not too heavily perfumed on the rose side of things, but it's there. But what you can really taste, you can taste the powdered sugar. Oh my word. Yeah, you're inhaling Turkish Delight. 100%. If you like Turkish Delight, you're going to love this. You really can. You can taste the powdered sugar. It's quite remarkable. And how they've done that. Oh, why can't I do it in bigger bottles? I'll just put a grin on my face, he says. This is really good. I like this. So this is the Zephyr, which is currently unreleased. I think it's going on sale pretty soon. Now this is a 60-40 VG-PG, 6 milligram blend. I think it's going to come in dripper bottles as well, all nicely coloured and packaged, that sort of thing. So yeah, now at Vape Fest, Luke said to me, he says, Matt, you're really going to like this one. Let's see if he's right. Apologies, you can't see me. There we go. Yeah. It's lemon refreshers. You know, those sweets you used to get as kids? Those swizzles? It's that. Sherbety. Yeah, that's really good. That's right up my street. It's lemony. I love a lemon vape. And tangy. Fizzy. Definitely fizzy. Oh my God. Yeah, that's superb. That is absolutely superb. As soon as this is on sale, I'm buying this stuff. Yeah, really, 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 really good. I absolutely wholeheartedly approve of this. If you like a lemon vape, like a nice sharp vape, you can get this. Yeah, really good.
Sorry.
Okay, we're back. I'm just going to address something I just saw Trishan put into chat. Right, the reason that your mod goes to 200 watts as a spike is because of the preheat punch. It will do that. It will take it up to 200 watts for 1 second, or if you've got your temperature control mode, till it gets to 100 degrees Fahrenheit less than your current set temperature, then it will back off to your set wattage. If you want to change that, go into eScribe. Anyway, there we go. Public service announcement. Right, final bit of VT for tonight is something that happened a week ago last Tuesday. B, you all know about this. And there we go. So that was a quick blast of VT from the VGod Cloud competition that was hosted by Barracuda Vape a week ago Tuesday. Good fun. I quite enjoyed it. Rid, you were there. Did you have fun?
The people blowing clouds and cloud rings. Yeah. No, it's not my cup of tea. Because I'd had my advocate head on that night, and I thought you really all need to switch on. But that's just me.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, as I said before, I mean, as much as advocacy is a big part, I mean, of vaping, you've got to have a bit of fun as well every now and again, of course.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't knock someone for having a bit of fun with it. I mean, I haven't got time to show it tonight, but Ridian did deliver a speech as well on behalf of VIP at the event. I do have video of it. I might show it next week, actually. Do you mind, Rid?
Nah. Everybody can ridicule me then in the best taste possible.
In the best possible taste?
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I meant.
I would do a Cupid stunt impression, but I'd knock on my mods flying. But yeah, no, I mean it was a good event, like, you know, and as always, you know, these events, people don't really pay much attention when someone actually stands up and does something serious, but it's part of the course.
Yeah, essentially at the end of it, I went around handing out the VIP flyers with the ways you could help vaping out with. Sign up to VIP, move, supporting our TW's challenge, and supporting NNA. Sent round the TW challenge signature sheet, just about managed to fill one side. People were saying, yeah, I've signed up, I think. Sign it again. No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, yeah, that's just the way it went. We probably got a few new signatures. Hopefully they've all been sent off to TWHQ, ready for the 29th of September. I nearly said October.
Oh, that was almost seamless. That would have been seamless.
Almost.
That would have been seamless.
I was thinking about the 1st of October.
If you didn't bugger it up, Rid, come on. 4 demerits.
Yeah, 29th of September. So that's Tuesday coming. 11 o'clock, Department of Health, Whitehall, hashtag Whitehall Wipeout. Pull a sickie, book a holiday for it, bring everybody down. I've had numerous requests to attend from various Facebook events, but it doesn't matter which one you sign up to on Facebook, just get your bottoms, feet and vape gear there.
Yes, I've had those invites as well. Unfortunately, I cannot get down there. I'd like to, I really would, but I simply can't. Unfortunately, my working life kind of takes precedence. You know.
Yeah. I've managed to convince Powers Up B. I'm going. So is Vicky. I know a couple of others in chat are going. B's going. So some of us won't be alone, but we need the physical presence there to show that we're serious.
You'll be armed with a camcorder, of course, Ridian, won't you?
I will be armed with a camcorder, and Aaron Drinsdale will also be there filming.
I believe you'll be meeting Leanna Lawless. Didn't she say last week that she's going to be going down?
I believe so.
She did, yes. Yeah. Leanna, you say hello to Ridian. Give her a nice big hug.
If Ridian survives, we might see him the following Tuesday.
He might decide he doesn't want to come back to Wales. I mean, at the moment, honestly, I couldn't blame him.
I just don't know.
Yes. I suppose we better wind up, hadn't we?
Yeah.
Yes. So tomorrow night then, it's I think it's Dave Dawn's last show before he goes away on his holidays. I think it is. Well, I say holidays, he's going to New Zealand to NNA stuff. It's not really a holiday. But he'll tell you all about that tomorrow. There's no point in me waffling on about it right now. And then we go back round to next week and the cycle starts again. And you know what to expect by now, don't you? You expect the show on Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday and so on and so forth. So that will happen. Before I go, VT from tonight will be made available separately. So the DV video is going to be made available separately. And if you want to make your blood pressure go up again, the Sened video is going to be available separately as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to try and get some more footage of the other stuff that's going on as well, but it's all a matter of timings, that sort of thing. I think I've covered all the bases. Should we say goodnight then?
I think we should.
Yes. Simon? Where are you?
Good night then.
There we are. Thank you very much for joining us, Si. It's always a pleasure. He's lost words.
Well, you know, I have to come on and scare you every now and again.
You don't scare me. You've got a nice friendly beard.
Very long beard these days.
I look at it as inspiration for young Ridian.
Yes. Well, it's taken me 2 months to get it this length, so.
Right, we'll see you next week. You want to say good night, Rid?
Good night, Rid.
Good night, Rid. Okay. So from us then, in Welsh Wales, where the fun's really happening. Toodaloo.
Ciao.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.